Change begins quietly. At first, it's barely even noticed. A single drop, a moment of impact, but soon the stillness begins to shift, and what was once calm is now alive with movement. At New Work Fellowship, we have already experienced this. The first single drop, then the outpouring of faith, of support, and of generosity. It all started in 1997. New Work Fellowship began as a small group of believers with a simple vision to create a church where people could encounter the living Christ and be transformed by His love. At first, the church gathered in offices and schools and various temporary spaces, literally whatever was available. But from the very beginning, our hearts were set on a mission that was far bigger than us. What began as a small drop in our community soon began to ripple outward in a way that could not be ignored. By 2000, the church was growing, land was purchased, and that was soon followed by the raising of our first facility. And that first building, it's still used every week. And we should always remember it was the result of sacrificial giving of those who first called New Work Fellowship their church home. By the turning of the next decade in 2010, we launched a vision renewal campaign called Are You Crazy? It was inspired by 2 Corinthians 5:13, which reads, "If it seems that we are crazy, it is for the glory of God." And our focus was threefold: responsible, missional, and attractional. And the church committed $898,000 for this vision to see the church grow. Just 6 years later, in 2016, our growth was overwhelming. We had a capital campaign called The Time Is Now that enabled us to double our worship center space, expand the Commons and Cafe, renovate completely the kids area, and add an office facility, which simultaneously freed up the modular buildings for small group gatherings. Another decade from that event, and God has blessed us again beyond anything that we could have asked or imagined. New Work Fellowship is no longer a single drop. We are experiencing the outpouring. It's like a rainstorm that is pouring down on us with blessings. And we are standing today in the middle of God's outpouring. What else can you call it? It is an outpouring of the Holy Spirit, a continuous flow of love and service and growth and giving. Together, we are caught up in something bigger than ourselves, something that is going to continue to grow. The outpouring is so much more than just a capital campaign. It is a shared vision, a collective effort that reflects the heart of who we are. This isn't just about a building. It's about a family, our family. It's about your family coming together, each one of us contributing our part to this outpouring. And every drop matters. Every act of faith, every small act of service, every prayer, every drop. All of it creates the ripples, and all of it moves us towards the future that God has for us. And the ripples, they continue to bring kingdom transformation to our church, to our community, to our future. The outpouring has already begun, but it's up to us to continue it, to build a place where God's outpouring can grow and where the ripples move us towards the next chapter. And speaking of the next chapter, there are 5 priorities that encompass this vision for the future. I bet you've already experienced them already. Parking. People do not come to church without their cars. Worship space. 4 services now, and we still have trouble finding seats in those prime time hours. Kids space. We're often hitting 300 in kids ministry in a building that was literally designed for 100 kids. Student space. Our student houses are bursting at the seam. And adult small group space. You've experienced it, haven't you? But none of these barriers are going to stand in the way of the gospel. Just look at what He's going to do. Now, if you were around in October, I shared with you on Vision Sunday some of the plans to address some of these barriers. The parking lot, we need about 140 space to relieve the pinch. And kids ministry, we need to expand in order to accommodate up to 500 kids. We envision a large group area that can be used in a multiplicity of ways. An indoor kids play area, which is key to attracting others to the church. A new kids entrance that takes the pressure off that current main entrance. And worship space. Now, we cannot expand the current worship center any more than we've already done so. So we're looking at a second venue, kind of like a coffee house feel, for an alternative worship service that can happen concurrently and provide additional seating for 200 to 250 people. But since that Vision Sunday, we have been impressed with the need to add one more piece that creates two more wins. We are planning to add also a student facility, 7,200 square feet, that will provide space for the student ministry to grow and equip that ministry with a versatile space that can be used in a lot of ways just off the activity court. And it will be joined to the main facility with a drive-through canopy that also will shelter the entrance to the new kids' entrance. And once that space is in hand, we then have two modular buildings that will help us to also expand our space for small group ministry. Can you see it? The vision of the future is continuing to grow. This is a place where every drop of faith contributes to something greater. I tell you, a place where the outpouring will continue to multiply. We are striving to be a church that leaves a legacy of service and hope that stretches far beyond these walls, and it points people to the Lord, that they would know Jesus, that they would grow to be like Jesus, and that they would go and share Jesus literally all around the globe. The outpouring is happening right now. You're a part of it, and together we are building something that will last, something that will make a difference today, tomorrow, and for generations to come. So let me ask you to do these three things. First of all, to be present and be in attendance. Don't miss a Sunday. Lay your life before the Lord in an attitude of whatever it takes, Lord. Secondly, we ask you to pray. No great movement of God has ever happened without there being first people who pray that God would move, who pray that you would be a part of that movement. And thirdly, we want to ask you to make a commitment, Wouldn't it be something if on the other side of this, every single family, every single person was a part of what God is doing? No one is going to tell you what to give, but don't you want to be a part of building something that leaves a legacy for the Lord that goes on and on and on into the future? And for the first time ever, we are building the church of my grandchildren. That matters to me. Legacy matters, and it matters to you. So let's all commit to do these three things: to show up for the Lord, secondly, to pray up to the Lord, and thirdly, to give up whatever it is that the Lord tells us to give. And then let's stand back and watch what God does best as He pours out Himself in and through this church and into our community across all of Western Kentucky and literally around the world.